Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to tackle a really big question. What if your immune system isn't just some army inside you, but more like a mirror? We're going to explore a new way of thinking that sees immunity not just as a fight against germs, but as a direct reflection of your entire life. Okay, so let's just dive right in with a question that kinda goes against everything we're usually told. We hear it constantly, right? Boost your immunity. But what if that's not just a little unhelpful? What if it's actually the completely wrong goal to have in the first place?
To figure out a better goal, we've got to look at a new framework. It's called lifestyleopathy, and it was developed by Dr. Jawad Alzeer. Now, it sees health less like a fortress you have to keep reinforcing, and more like a finely tuned engine. It's all about the dynamic balance between the energy that builds you up and all the natural forces that cause wear and tear on the system.
So let's kick things off by completely reframing how we think about our immune system, what it is, and what it's really doing.
Instead of that old picture of a silent army of cells just waiting for an invader, this model asks us to see our immune system as this living, breathing mirror. It's constantly reflecting the choices we make, what we eat, how we move, and even what we think and feel.
Okay, so let's get into the two fundamental forces that this mirror reflects. This is really the core engine of the whole lifestyleopathy framework.
So on one side, you've got potential energy. Think of this as all the good stuff, the constructive, organized power that builds you up, repairs you, and restores you. And then on the other side, you've got entropy. That's the constant natural pull towards disorder, chaos, and, breaking down. Real health is just a continuous balancing act between these two powerful forces.
And this is so crucial. Real resilience doesn't come from just boosting the system, just cranking up the volume on our immune response. That can actually be just as bad as a weak one. The real goal, the art of it, is in tuning the system to find that perfect, effective sweet spot.
Now, this balance, or, the lack of balance, it actually shows up in our bodies in three really distinct ways, or modes. And being able to recognize which mode you're in, that's the first step to tuning your system.
First up, we've got the ideal state, the goal, fight mode. This is where your immune system is working at its absolute best. It's resilient, it's adaptive, and it's incredibly efficient. It handles threats with precision, and it recovers quickly. This is where we want to be.
But when that entropy starts to take over and your energy gets all scattered and chaotic, the system slips into fright mode. You can think of it like an immune system panic attack. It has tons of power, but it's totally disorganized and it overreacts. This leads to friendly fire, things like allergies, chronic inflammation, and even autoimmune conditions where the body literally attacks itself.
And then on the complete other end of the spectrum, we have flight mode. This is what happens when your potential energy just collapses. The immune system is depleted, it's underpowered, and it can't put up a good fight. This leaves you vulnerable to things like chronic infections and just really slow healing.
Now, this is where it all clicks. It just connects the dots so clearly. Look at the biology row. Cytokines are basically the messengers of your immune system. In fight mode, they're balanced, but in fright mode, you get a flood of them, which perfectly mirrors that mental state of anxiety and fear. And in flight mode, you have low immune activity and fewer messengers, which is reflected in that feeling of withdrawal and apathy. It's amazing.
And that just perfectly illustrates how deeply our psychological state and our physical immunity are connected. They're really just two sides of the very same coin.
For example, take an anxious personality. That state of constant worry and being on high alert? This just scatters your potential energy. And what happens biologically? The immune system mirrors that exact chaos. It becomes overreactive and inflammatory. That's fright mode in action.
And it works the other way too. That psychological state of helplessness and withdrawal that you can see in depression, that collapses your potential energy. So the body reflects this with a suppressed immune system and a weaker defense. That is the very definition of flight mode.
Okay, so this is all fascinating, right? But what do we actually do with this information? Let's get practical, because you're not just a passenger here. You can actively learn to tune your own state. The great news is the tuning process is actually refreshingly simple. It starts with just recognizing which mode you're in. From there, you set a clear goal. Do I need to calm things down, or do I need to activate my energy? And finally, you use specific actions to get yourself back into balance.
All right, so let's say you recognize the signs of fright mode, that feeling of being wired, restless, maybe a little on edge. Your number one priority is to calm the system down and get all that scattered energy back into some kind of order.
And there are specific targeted actions that can get this done. Slow, deep breathing literally lowers your stress hormones. Gentle movement helps release all that nervous energy. And something like a rapid cold shower can actually act like a physiological reset button for a nervous system that's just completely overstimulated.
On the flip side, what if you're in flight mode? You're feeling exhausted, withdrawn, totally unmotivated. Well, here, the goal is the complete opposite. We need to gently reactivate the system and start rebuilding your potential energy without overwhelming it.
The key here is all about momentum. You want to start with small, achievable wins, things like a short walk in the sun. Reconnecting with a good friend or getting lost in a hobby you love can reawaken that essential spark of energy.
And what's truly profound about this way of thinking is that it doesn't just apply to our own individual bodies. It actually scales up to our families, our workplaces, and even our communities.
And that brings us right back to the core idea. The state of our immune system is a deep, profound reflection of our entire life. Our physical health, sure, but also our mental state, our sense of purpose, and our connection to others.
So we'll leave you with this final thought to carry with you. Take a moment to really look in that mirror. Is it showing balance and focus and resilience? Or is it maybe signaling that it's time for a little tune-up? The power to change that reflection, it's in your hands.